All right, we will go ahead and get started. And if people end up joining a little bit later, that is okay. So again, welcome to the next Summer Transition Series webinar. I'm super excited to have you all here talking about advising and registration, specifically within Trinity today. We will be having 2 other webinars this week. Tomorrow we'll be joined with Pratt, and then Thursday, I keep thinking today's Monday, Thursday, we will have pre-health here, but today it's all about Trinity. If you've joined us before, you know how this works. So at the very bottom of your screen, there is a Q&A button. Feel free to click on that and start typing in your questions. I'll be hosting and moderating the webinar today. So anything that you type out, I'll be asking our lovely panelist, who I'll allow to introduce himself in a second. Yeah, so if you have any questions, feel free to start posting them in the Q&A, and we will go ahead and get started. So David, if you would please unmute yourself and give a little introduction.
Yeah, thank you, Casey. Hi, everyone. My name is David Rabiner. I am the director of the Advising Center at Duke. Our office serves primarily Trinity College students, but we have some Pratt students as well. I'm also a research professor in the Department of Psychology and Neuroscience. And along with my colleagues in the AAC, we're located behind the marketplace on East Campus. Our job is to really try to help you, find the academic path at Duke that works best for you. And I'll do my best to answer any questions you have today. And you can call our office each day between now and the end of the month, anytime from 9 to 4:30, and we'll connect you to somebody on call who will try to help you as well.
Amazing, thank you. And I will say, so later this month, we are hosting a webinar called Peer Connections. So if you have any questions that are more like peer-to-peer specific about the advising or about the registration process or courses at Duke, I might save your question for a later webinar, so just a heads up. And just a reminder, this webinar is being recorded, so we'll be able to post that onto the Duke University New Student Programs YouTube channel afterwards, so you'll be able to rewatch this recording. But we will go ahead and kick it off with our first question. And that is, what is the best way to build schedules on the Duke Hub to prepare for registration?
Yeah, so I'm not going to talk about the sort of the technical aspects of building a schedule. I'll talk about, what we think is a way to approach choosing your first set of courses in the fall, right? So I'm assuming that you're not in Focus, because in Focus, you've already got 2 of your 4 full credit classes selected for you. So, you'd start with whether or not you're selected for Writing 101 in the fall, which you can see in Duke Hub. If you're in Writing 101, that will be one of your 4. Beyond that, I would say, what am I really interested in? What are departments that as I begin at Duke, I feel like I have a strong interest in and might even want to pursue in some depth. So it makes sense to begin exploring classes and fields that you're interested in. So, I'm a psych professor. If I were coming in with an interest in psychology, it would make great sense for me to take a psych course and see what I think about psychology at Duke. The other suggestion that we would give is, there are so many fields at Duke that no high school student has had a chance to take anything in because they just weren't offered at a high school, is to also think about, what might be a whole new discipline that would be something that I'd want to explore. Oftentimes, students take a course in what's a brand new area for them and find that, wow, this is this is really neat. This is something I want to continue, to take courses in. So a combination of interests that you already have that makes sense to check out at Duke, thinking about what might be a brand new interest for you. And then the other thing that's important, I think, is not to load up on too many courses in the same area. So we really don't encourage students to take all science classes or all quantitative classes or all humanities or all social sciences. There are three academic divisions at Duke: the arts and humanities, the natural and quantitative sciences, and the social sciences. And within your four courses, really suggest that at least two of the three divisions are represented. That will at least bring some diversity to the kind of work that you're doing. It will help with the curriculum requirements as well. And then also to think about, kind of a mix of large and small classes, right? Sometimes if students are just taking all big, intro 101 classes, it's harder to get to know both your peers and your faculty in big classes. So to try to have a mix of both lecture and kind of smaller seminar classes, a language class, writing 101, those will be all small classes. So trying to find some balance in size, in academic division, all those things are useful to consider.
That's some great advice. You mentioned focus towards the beginning of your response, and I have a question that came in, and it says, if I'm in focus, is it a good idea to enroll in any other seminar courses in the fall? I know seminars can sometimes be writing intensive. Any advice for that?
Yeah. If it's writing intensive, you will know that from looking at the curriculum code. It would have a W code associated with it. Taking more than one writing intensive class in your first semester, for some students who love writing, that would be great. For other students who don't enjoy writing, that would not turn out to be such a good idea. Seminars, the thing I would say, there's nothing wrong with taking multiple seminars, even more than the two that you would take in focus. The only caution I would give is, it's good to experience what a different type of class is like. You will be in some larger lecture classes at Duke, and so seeing what those feel like in your first semester, I think can be useful. The other thing is that you're more accountable in seminars. Faculty know if you're there or if you're not there. You're supposed to be up to date with the reading, ready to come in and participate. In a big lecture class, that doesn't happen. And so, so think about whether, if I'm in 3 or 4 small classes, you've got a level of accountability each day that you would not have in a big lecture class, and to think candidly, knowing yourself, is this something that I'm going to be able to pull off or not? If you miss class or you show up and you haven't read the stuff and aren't able to participate, faculty will notice that. So I would give that some thought. And if you feel like, great, I can do that, I want to do that, then it can be fine. But there is some value in having some diversity in the size of the courses that you're in, as well as the content of the course.
Great. There are a couple questions in here about AP scores. So one says that the registrar mentioned that their official AP scores have been received. However, they can't find them listed in Duke Hub. So I guess where are scores entered? Like, where are people able to see what AP scores are counted? And maybe talk through that process a little bit.
So, AP, so that's a surprise to me if AP scores have been received yet for exams that were taken this year. What we've told the board is that AP scores that were taken for exams taken in May are unlikely to arrive before mid to late July, so potentially after students enroll, and that scores taken during the third administration in June may not arrive until August. So we have not heard that scores have arrived. If they arrived, they just arrived, and it'll take a few days to post. You should find that in DoCub under your course history list. If you received AP credit, that is where it would show up. I did not think that AP scores would get here in time for registration based on what the College Board has on their website.
And if they arrive, do you have any advice for if AP scores arrive after the registration window?
Yeah, so the only time it makes a difference, honestly, about whether your AP score is posted before you enroll or not, is whether you're trying to enroll in a class for which that AP credit is a requirement, right? So, for example, if you wanted to enroll in multivariable calculus, you need that AP credit, or DoCub will not let you enroll in the class. If you want to enroll in Econ 201, you need to show that AP credit for micro and macroeconomics, or DoCub will not let you enroll in the class. For those classes, the AP credit is an enrollment requirement, and you can see if it's an enrollment requirement. When you click on the course link, you'll see that listed in the enrollment requirement section. If there are other classes for which AP credit is used to guide placement, but it's not a requirement. So, for example, for the languages, most of the languages will say, if you have a 5 on an AP exam, you can enroll in a 300 level class, but they generally do not require that AP credit in order for you to enroll in a 300 level class. So what I would suggest you do, same with chemistry. If your AP Chem score isn't in, the Chem department says if you have a 5 on the AP, you're ready for organic, Chem 201. If you have a 4, you should take 110, but it's not enforced in DoCub. So you could enroll in organic chemistry without an AP score. It wouldn't be a good idea for you, but you could do it. So what I would suggest is, if you're trying to get into a class that an AP credit is required, meaning you can't get in through DoCub without it, the best thing to do is, when it's your registration window, enroll in 4 classes, so you're in a full course load. And then when your AP score posts later in the month, if that's what happens, just if you get the score that you need, at that point, go back, drop the lower level math class that you enrolled in and put yourself in the class that you want to take. I know students, are really concerned about being shut out of a class because their AP score hasn't arrived in time. I can't say that's impossible. However, you got to remember, every first year student is in a similar situation. It's not like you're the only one. If the scores come in after registration, you and hundreds of your classmates are dealing with the same issue, right? If, for example, in a subject like chemistry, if you think, man, I did really well on that AP exam, and I think I want to start with organic chem, and I think I can manage it, then enroll in it. And then if it turns out when the AP exam score comes in, you didn't do as well as you think, you should drop down to what the department would recommend, based on your score. But I know it's a real pain if the scores aren't here. It would be nicer if they were, but I don't really think it's going to mess students up. Just do the best you can at your enrollment window, and then when you get your scores, you can adjust accordingly. You'll have until August 17th to go in and fiddle around on your own and make changes to your schedule. On the 17th, which is move-in day, at that point, DoCub is going to close to you. You won't be able to make any more drop ads or anything like that until you've met with your college advisor, which you'll do at the end of orientation week. And then your college advisor will give you access in Duke Hub to go ahead and make additional changes. And then you have the first 2 weeks of the semester, which is the drop add period, to finalize things if you still feel like you need to adjust some things in your schedule.
Awesome. There was a follow-up question about, is that the same advice slash process for IB scores? Really?
Yeah, it'll be the same thing for IB scores. If there's a class for which IB credit is needed to enroll, until Duke gets your official IB score report, that won't be posted on Duke Hub. Doesn't matter if you know your score. Duke has to get the report. And so again, just enroll in what you can enroll at the time, and then when your scores get posted, and if you earn the credit that you need to get into a higher level class, at that point you can make the change. There aren't really that many classes that first year students take where the AP credit is an enrollment requirement. It's that way for Econ 201, if students want to get into an Econ class beyond 101. It's that way for some of the 200 level math classes, the multivariable calculus classes. I'm not sure that there are that many more, right? For many others, like chem, like the languages and stuff like that, they're used as guidelines, but they don't prevent you from enrolling if you don't have the score posted yet. And again, the score comes in and wow, I thought I was going to 5, but I got a 1. Unlikely, but who knows? Then you can adjust.
Great. Next question is, how can you tell which classes are open to freshmen? Are they typically just the intro 2 ones?
No, they're not. So as a first year student, right? Basically, you can take any class below the 500 level. Okay. So when I say you can take any class, you can take any class below the 500 level that does not have enrollment requirements, prerequisites that you don't have, right? Now, just because you could take any class without enrollment requirements doesn't necessarily mean that's a great idea for you. But, realistically, if you were interested, say you saw a 300 level history class that looked great, it's in an area that you've been dying, to learn about. If that class doesn't have any required prereqs that you don't have, you can enroll in that class. Now, what it means, the higher the number is, the more likely you are to be in there with older students, right? In a 300, 400 level class, it's going to be more juniors and seniors than it's going to be first year students. If that's a problem for you, then, then don't do it, but doesn't have to be a problem. And what you can always do and should do is, if you're really interested in a class, but you're not sure, wow, this is a 300 level class, I'm not sure I'm ready for it. Email the instructor. Say, dear Professor so-and-so, hey, my name's David Rabiner, and I'm an incoming student, and I'm really interested in your class in the fall, but it's my first semester. What do you think? Have you had other first year students take your class? Do you think I can do that and have a good experience? You may have to try a few times. Faculty are away over the summer. Oftentimes they may not get back right away. And then if you don't hear from them, you could show up and go to the class and say, hey, I haven't enrolled yet because I was a little worried about signing up for a 300 level class, but I'm really into what you're teaching, I think. And I wanted to see if you think it's reasonable for me as a new student to take this class. If they say, yeah, we've had first year students, I've had first year students before, and they do great, so you are welcome to join us. Or they may say, I'd love to have you, but it would probably be smart to wait until you've, had a semester or 2 under your belt before signing up. But don't rule it out, And the other thing, to recognize is some departments are really pretty hierarchically arranged and others aren't, so, it would be ludicrous to take, a 300 level math class when you don't have first year calculus. You'd be unlikely to have a positive experience. But, in the humanities and the social sciences, they tend not to be as, hierarchically organized as a lot of the STEM fields. So you might find a 300 level class in whatever, in history, in English, in literature, in philosophy. That could be an absolutely great class for you to consider. And again, don't hesitate. Don't be shy about getting input from the instructor when you have questions or feel unsure. That's their job. They're professors. They're supposed to help you. So hold them to account on that. That's what they should be doing.
Love that. One of the other questions that's come up is it a good idea to get the T-Rex out of the way early? And I'm not talking about a dinosaur. Can you
Yeah.
talk a little bit about the different types of requirements? I know this one mentions specifically the T-Rex.
Yeah, those are the Trinity College curriculum requirements. And I would encourage you not to think about them as requirements, but to think about them as kind of a structure that's been put in place in a thoughtful way by the faculty to help students acquire a rounded, broad liberal arts education at Duke. What I would say about the curriculum requirements is that they look onerous. They are not onerous. Trinity graduates about 1,400 students a year. I've been an academic dean for a number of years. I can tell you that each year, the number of students who have to delay graduation because they're missing one of the requirements is, I can count them on the fingers of one hand. You really have to try to make that happen. I mean, most students, as long as you pay a little bit of attention to how the progress you're making towards the requirements, you will find that by the time you're done with your second year, you may have already completed them, or you will have just a small number of requirements left to do. It takes, give or take, it varies from student to student, but in about 15 to 17 courses, you can knock out all of the curriculum requirements. And many of those courses will be courses that will also count towards your major, right? So it's not nearly as demanding in terms of how much coursework it takes as students think. And the other thing I would say is, these are only requirements in the broadest sense of the word, right? So, there are area of knowledge requirements, and there are these mode of inquiry requirements. You can read about it in the Learning at Duke section of the Blue Book. In the areas of knowledge, okay, one of the requirements, for example, is you have to take 2 social science courses at Duke, right? How many social science courses do you think you have to choose from while you're here? Probably 1,000, something like that, right? So, how is that really it's a requirement only in the most broad, expansive sense, because you will have, for every so-called requirement, you have so much choice about how you, based on your unique interests, how you go about fulfilling that. Same with the natural sciences, same with the arts, literature, and performance area. You will always have hundreds of different courses that you can choose. So, if you can't find 2 classes in the social sciences that you are excited to take, that would be surprising to me, based on how many great courses and great faculty there are in every area of the university.
And I know that I mentioned it a little bit earlier, but that might be one of those, if you find yourself asking those types of questions. And I think there was a question posted a little bit ago that was like, what's a great starting humanities course for a non-humanities major? Those types of questions are really great to ask current students. You can hear their perspectives about like different classes or what was really interesting, what courses surprised them, different faculty that they love or people that they've connected with based on like research or whatever that might be. So like Dr. Robner said, there are so many options, and there's definitely time to explore them. But that might be a great peer question.
And I completely agree. I would also say that what one student loves, another student may not. So I was talking with a student earlier today, a sophomore, who got what he thought was great advice from from an older student about taking a particular course in his first semester, because this student had taken it and it was challenging, but he loved it. Well, didn't work out so well, so your peers can be, as Casey is saying, can be really good sources of information, but there's a lot of variability in how students at Duke will react and respond to the exact same class.
It's a great caveat. Okay, so next question is, if a student is assigned to the second day of registration, what are the chances that a lot of class choices will be filled by the time they get to register?
Yeah, so, it really depends. I mean, there are certain classes, the big intro classes for the most part, like if you want to take Econ 101 or Comp Sci 101, those classes have hundreds of seats. It's not going to be an issue. There are some classes, the smaller classes are more likely to fill. So, some of the first year seminars that you might be very interested in, they could well be filled before you enroll in the second window. Sometimes some of the classes, will be filled before any first year student gets to enroll. So, in recent years, we've found that, Spanish 101, the seats are gone before anybody in the new class gets a chance to register. The Writing 101 classes that are limited to 12 students, many of those may be potentially filled before the second window opens. So, I can't imagine that, with your 4 classes, could you get shut out of 1 or 2? It could happen, but it'll vary a lot from one student to the next, depending on what they pick. And I would say that completely get how disappointing it is to be closed out of a class that you want to take, but there are hundreds and hundreds of things you can choose from, and so it's almost, and I don't want to come across as whatever kind of not understanding how disappointing it is to get shut out of a class that you want, but there will be you can find so many great options that every student can find a full course load of four great courses. It may take a little snooping. It takes being a little bit flexible. You should have backups in your shopping cart. And so, you can see after the first half of the class enrolls on the 15th, you can then log in, go into your shopping cart and check out what the situation is in the classes that you're interested in. If you have Writing 101 in the second window, you need to have 3 or 4 or 5 possibilities in there. They can fill, right? And what you don't know, let's say your top choice for Writing 101 has 3 seats left, and hopefully you get one of those seats. But what you don't know is there could be 15 students who will register with you on the 19th. That's their top choice for Writing 101, and everybody may hit that enroll me button when the clock strikes 7, And some people's request is going to get to the registration server milliseconds in front of other people's, and there go the seats. So, be flexible. There are lots of great options. Have some backups there, and, it will work out. And remember, if your first window in the fall, you'll be second window in the spring. If you go second now, you'll go first in the spring. That equalizes. Nobody is, you may be at a disadvantage for one semester, but over the course of your 4 years at Duke, you will be in the first and second window an equal number of times as everybody else in your class.
Great advice. There's a question that corresponds to that as far as having backups. So the question is, if we can only register for 4 classes, how can we also put ourselves on a wait list for a class if we get shut out of? So if you could talk about the wait list for how that differs.
You cannot, as an incoming student, you should not put yourself, you are not allowed to put yourself on a wait list. The system will not let you, because Duke wants people to be in a full course load when they arrive. And the way wait lists work at Duke is it counts as one of the credits towards your total, right? So the system doesn't even let you join a wait list at this point. So that's just not an option. Once you get here and you've met with your advisor, at that point, if you want to join a wait list, at that point, first year students can join a wait list. But if I'm in 4 classes and, I want to get on the wait list for, whatever, a particular, kind of a first year seminar, in order to get on that wait list, I have to drop one of my other 4 classes. That's the only way I can get on the wait list. I have to drop it first, and then it will let me on the wait list, because the wait list counts as my 4th credit. And so what happens is, if I don't get in off the wait list, and the wait lists are erased at the end of the first week, if I don't get in off the wait list, then now I'm in 3 courses, which is an underload. And it's not permitted to be in an underload in your first semester. So if you want to take your chances and join a wait list, what I would strongly urge you to do is find another class that has plenty of seats, that would fit with the rest of your schedule, and attend that class in the first week. And if you don't get in off the wait list, add that class. So at that point, you're in 4 classes, right? And you haven't missed the whole first week of the class, which is a really not a great way, to start out. If you're just going to 3 and you're waitlisted for a 4th, it's not like you can't then find another class to add. However, in the second week, you have to get a permission number, which, you can do. Faculty, you have to get them from faculty, but you'll be feel like you're scrambling to find something. And then if you've missed the whole first week of the class, it's just a lousy way to start. Whereas if you've been going to something each class and then you don't get it off the wait list and then you just add it, you're good. You haven't missed anything. So if you want to take your chances on a wait list, that's the way to do it. And, if you're number 3 or 4 on the wait list on like a class, like on a seminar that's, capped at 12 students or 15 students, what are the odds that 3 people are going to drop that? So pay attention to what number you are. Yeah. And just kind of a bit of trivia, but if I put myself on the wait list for a class and I'm number 1 on the wait list, but it turns out that class conflicts in time with something else on my schedule, if somebody drops, rather than getting pulled in as I would if I'm number 1, it won't pull me in because it's not going to add me to a class that conflicts with something else that I'm enrolled in.
There's I've got 2 related questions, and then we'll kind of shift gears a little bit. One is, are the number of available seats per class in Duke Hub up to date, taking into account upperclassmen? Like, does that happen live? They wrote, as of right now, it looks like every class has 100% of seats available, but I don't believe anyone has registered until tomorrow. So that's probably why.
Yeah, right now it'll look like every seat is available in every class because students haven't started to enroll yet. But the seniors will enroll, then the juniors, then the sophomores, and then you'll see those seat totals change. And I think that I'm pretty sure that happens in real time.
Yeah. Okay, and then the other related question, you mentioned a permission number. This question is, when choosing classes to place in our shopping cart, there was a place to type a permission number. What is a permission number and where should we find one if we need it?
Yeah, so there are some classes, and it's the minority of classes at Duke, that require instructor consent in order to enroll. And so if a class actually requires instructor consent, you will see when you click on the class link, you will see listed next to, in the enrollments requirements section, instructor consent required. In order to get into a class with instructor consent required, you have to reach out to the instructor and say, hey, I'd love to take your class. Can you send me a permission number that I can use to enroll? And without a permission number, you can't get into the class. For some reason, and I don't know why, and I think this has changed with the new version of Duke Hub, when you go to put a class in your shopping cart, you see that permission number box for every single class. But you will, you don't need it except for classes that truly, when you look in the enrollment requirements, list instructor consent required as being necessary for enrollment. Otherwise, what the registrar has told us, that here's a quote from the registrar, because the student asked me this exact question. Students should be able to hit save on the permission number display box, and then the system will let them add the course to their shopping cart without a permission number. That permission number box appears for all courses, as some courses actually do require special permission. So that's what the registrar has told us. We don't see what you see. I don't have access to what students see when they try to enroll. If you have any questions about the technical aspects of enrolling like that, your best friend is the registrar. And email the registrar your question at registrar@duke.edu, and they get back to students and to faculty really quickly. Our office will not be able to help. We don't see what you see. So we can't really walk you through that, but the registrar can.
Great, thank you. Switching gears a little bit, the next question is, if we took a college course during the school year, where should we send the transcripts?
So if you took a college course during the school year, the criteria that Duke uses to evaluate whether that course can be accepted for what would be called pre-matriculation credit is it's got to be a course that was, not a dual enrollment thing where you were in there with other high school students. It's a true college course taught by college faculty. You're in there with other college students. It's not required in any way for your high school degree, period. At that point, if those are all true, you have to have the transcript for the course sent to the registrar. You can go to duke.edu and in the search box, type in pre-matriculation credit, go to that page. There will be a link to a form that you have to get your high school to complete if you took it while you were still in high school and not after you graduated, and the form that you need to get the college to complete. Okay, those have to be completed. Those also have to get to the registrar, and you have to send the syllabus for the course to the registrar. When the registrar has all of that, let's say you took a math class. They'll send the syllabus to the math department, and the math department decides, hey, will we accept this class for transfer credit or not? If the math department says no, that's it. They're the only ones who can decide whether or not to accept it. If the math department says, yes, we will accept this class as the equivalent of math, XXX at Duke, then as long as you earned a B- or above, you will get that credit, pre-matriculation credit, and it will show up in Duke Hub on your course history.
Great. We have a couple of questions about course credits, and I will say some of these are pretty situationally specific. So I won't dive into that because I definitely want to keep it general and broad to apply to the majority of people watching this. But there's a question about like labs and lectures, and how does having a lab and a lecture count as two? Like what is the
No. In general at Duke, a course is a credit, 1 credit, and it's 1 credit whether it has just a lecture or whether it has a lecture and discussion or whether it has a lecture and discussion and the lab. So for example, Chem 101, you've got a lecture 2 or 3 times a week, a discussion section, and you have to enroll in the lab. You get 1 credit for the whole shebang. There are a small number of courses where the lab may be a separate, like quarter credit or maybe half credit component, but in almost all cases, whether it's lecture only, lecture and discussion, or lecture, discussion, and lab, the combination gives you a single credit, right? So, Chem 101, you're in class between lecture, lab, and discussion, I don't know, 7 hours a week, something like that, 6, 7 hours a week. Just a straight lecture class, 2.5 hours a week. You get a credit for both. There are a lot of half credit classes at Duke, PE classes, some of the music performance classes like orchestra, chamber music, whatever. There are house courses, which are really interesting courses that are led by fellow students. There are a few double credit courses. Those are, I think, only like kind of intensive language classes that do 2 semesters of a language in 1. But in general, every course is a credit, and you need 34 of those credits to graduate.
There's a question about the maximum credits that students are allowed to take their first semester. If you want to maybe touch on that, and then what if someone wants to take more than the 4.5, and talk about that transition a little bit.
Yeah. So, all students, whether you're just starting out or a senior, you can only enroll in 4.5 credits at your enrollment window. Okay. Once drop add begins, which in this fall is like 12 a.m. on July 20th, if you were anything other than a first semester student, you could go in up to 5.5 credits without getting any permission from anybody. Okay. In your very first semester, you can only go above 4.5 credits with permission from your dean. So academic deans will be assigned later this summer. You'll see your dean's name on Duke Hub and their contact info. Let's say you were in focus and you're in 4.5 credits, but you want to take a house course, or you want to take a Taekwondo class through PE. You can email your dean and say, hey, dean, I'm in 4.5 credits because I'm in focus, but I really want to take this house course on blah, blah, blah. Will you please increase my credit limit to 5 so I can enroll? In almost all cases, your dean will say, yeah, I'll do that for you, and then you can enroll. So you can be in up to 5 credits in your first semester, but only 4 of those credits can be full credit academic classes. The final credit will be a combination of a couple of half credit classes. And the most that anybody can ever be in, no matter what, no matter how much you want to take more, you could only do 6, period, no matter what.
A lot.
And there are very few students who do 6 credits in a typical semester. The mode is 4. I'm guessing, 5 is not uncommon. I don't know, maybe guessing, maybe 20% of students each term are in 5 full credit classes, but 4 is the most common load. And 6, I don't know, maybe across all of Trinity, maybe, I don't know, 50 students, something like that might be in 6.
Yeah. I would say too, from a transition lens, um, you know, this is a new experience, and I can understand being eager and ready, and like ready to take on more. But this is a transition, and a lot of things are changing in this moment, right? Like you're some of you are moving away from home for the first time, are living with a roommate for the first time, are self-sufficient, like having to care for yourself for the first time. So there's a lot going on, and it does play into your academics and how you show up in the classroom. And so this also is a chance and an opportunity to kind of help you get adjusted to campus, and your new home, and then kind of determine like what your levels are and what you like and what you don't like. So there's multiple reasons why. So I just wanted to give that little transition plug. Okay, next question is, if you think you're between 2 levels for a course, would you recommend picking the harder one and dropping back if it's too hard, or picking up the easier one and moving up if it's too easy? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think there's, any straightforward answer to that. The best thing to do if you're unsure about what the right level is for you is to try to speak with the instructor and let them know what your background is and what your concerns are about placement, and try to get input from them. Sometimes, I mean, that comes up most often in the languages, in terms of the level. So I would try to get input over the summer from the, you could all the languages will have a director of the language program. I would try to reach out, to them, for their input. The challenge, in order to be able to change, during the drop add period, there's got to be open seats in a section that fits the rest of your schedule, right? So, if I say, okay, I'm going to try Spanish 301, and then I found out, oh, great, this is moving too quickly for me, I can only drop back, to like 204 if there's a section of 204 that still has some seats left that doesn't conflict with other things in my schedule. So, it's not always possible, to drop back or to move forward. If you want to, preserve the possibility of dropping a level or moving up a level, you got to make sure that you don't schedule the rest of your courses so that they are going to overlap with anything that you might be trying to, to move to, right? And the only department where there's more flexibility than the regular drop add period is chemistry. One of the things chemistry has worked out that's really helpful for students is up to like 2 weeks beyond when drop add ends, which is the end of the second week of classes, they will let you, if you feel like a class is moving too quickly, they'll let you drop down a level. So you can start in 201 and you say, this is not working for me. You can drop down to 110. If you start at 110, you can drop down to 101 up to about a month into the semester. Again, that, I can't drop down from 110 to 101 if the both lecture sections of 101 overlap with other courses that I'm in. So, when you want to have the option of dropping back or moving up. You just got to make sure that you haven't scheduled the rest of your stuff in such a way that you just can't do it because of the time conflicts. But reach out to the faculty or to the DUS. The DUS, Director of Undergraduate Studies, they oversee the major. Their job is to help students, get into the right course. And so, you may have to be persistent, especially over the summer, but they're the people who are going to be best informed and in the best position, to help you with those kinds of decisions.
Great. I do want to be mindful of time. We have about 6 minutes left and around 5 questions. So maybe we can not rapid fire, but I hope to get through all of them. But one of them is, what is the difference between taking a writing 101 with a seminar component and a normal writing 101 class in regards to the structure of the class, as well as how many credits it counts for?
So I think what you're referring to is there are some small number of writing 101s that have this ethics 189 as a co-rec. Those are classes that are part of this kind of what now first year series of courses at Duke that are really designed to engage students in, thinking about, kind of important questions like, what they want their life to be about and why and what really matters, to them. There are some writing 101s where you have to enroll in the ethics 189 co-rec. I think those meet once a week. I don't think they're extra work from what I've heard from students. They're more, kind of hopefully really interesting, engaging discussions, and you get an extra half credit for that ethics 189 part of the class. Most of the writing 101s are just straightforward writing 101s. That's all you enroll in. But there's, I don't know, half a dozen that have that co-rec.
Great. Do you recommend not taking a writing intensive course first semester if you're assigned to take writing 101 in the second semester?
No. If there's a writing intensive course that you want to take, by all means, take it. There are, the writing requirement at Trinity is 3 writing intensive courses, including writing 101, one of which needs to be after your first year. So if you took a second writing intensive course, in addition to writing 101, it would, hopefully it's a great course, which is the main reason to take it for you, but it would count towards a part of the writing requirement in Trinity, that's beyond writing 101. If you took two writing intensive classes plus writing 101, that wouldn't fulfill the requirement because one of them has to be after the first year.
Is it okay to have a different professor for the lecture, discussion, and lab?
Yes. So in classes like, say, Chem 101 that have a lecture, discussion, and a lab, you actually, and this is true for pretty much, I think, every classes with a discussion section, you enroll in the discussion section that you want, and that automatically adds you to the lecture. The lecture part is not the component that you enroll in. You enroll in the discussion. And almost always, there will be somebody else who's leading this discussion than who's leading the lab. I mean, Chem 101 probably has 20 discussion sections. You can bet that the professor who's teaching the lecture is not also sitting in and leading 20 discussion sections. And then the lab is going to be led by a different instructor. So generally, those classes will have different, almost always, it'll be somebody doing the discussion that's different from the person who's running the lecture.
Great. All right, second to last question. Are summer classes recommended?
This is one of these, there's no yes or no, right? I mean, there are a lot of times when taking a summer class makes great sense. But I don't think anybody could say, yeah, you should do it, or no, you shouldn't. Oftentimes pre-health students might choose to do some of their science classes over the summer to kind of help spread out the lab courses so that they don't have to, double up on those, during a regular academic semester. Sometimes, students are looking to graduate early after 7 semesters or even 6, and taking stuff over the summer makes sense. Sometimes if students are anticipating a class that they need to take, say for a major or oftentimes for pre-health, being really demanding, they may want to just try to knock it out in 6 weeks when they can just focus on that one thing, as opposed to three other courses plus all the other things that they're doing during the regular year. So oftentimes it can make sense, but it's not a yes or no kind of thing.
All right, and the last question that we're gonna have time to answer today is there someone we can work with for personal help with course selection? What does advising look like?
What does advising? So everybody will be assigned what we call a college advisor. Probably by the end of this month, early August. That will be the person that you will meet with during orientation week and during each subsequent enrollment period. Hopefully, you'll connect with them beyond that. But go to our website, advising.duke.edu. We have a kind of a graphic on that page that talks about, kind of the network of advisors that you have at Duke, in addition to just your assigned college advisor. There are some videos, short videos on the bottom of that page that both shows you kind of how advising is structured, and also talks about how, we have these great specialized advisors in our office called directors of academic engagement that focus on either the arts and humanities, the social sciences, the national and quantitative sciences, and then all the global and civic engagement opportunities. They know more about what's available for students in their specialized area by far than anyone else at this university. And you can go onto our website, you can make an appointment with them, their calendars are online, you can book an appointment, 1 hour with any of them whenever you want. They have to have openings, but they are an incredible resource. And we wish everybody in your class would meet with at least one of the DAEs in the fall. It will be time well spent.
Yeah, they're pretty amazing. I do want to plug something, because I know that we're at the end of our time, and there were some questions that we weren't able to get to. So Duke Student Government has been coordinating peer academic advising sessions as a way to support incoming first-year students in their transition to Duke. So they're structured as Zoom office hour type opportunities. So you can pop in, ask questions about course registration. Someone mentioned something specifically about like, how do you use a shopping cart, or how do you use the planning feature? So they'll be able to walk you through what those different tools on Duke Hub, like how they work. So yeah, they're dropping hours. The students come from a variety of different academic departments, programs, and they're really just there to talk about their experience, answer your questions, and really give that peer advice that we were referencing earlier. I'll give the same caveat that Dr. Rabner said earlier of, one student's experience is not every student's experience. So, take advice with a grain of salt. There was a question that popped up about, can I use Rate My Professor to help in course selection? And sure, but also know that things like that can be biased depending on who's posting it. So, take everything with a grain of salt and figure it out for like yourself and explore it for yourself. But I'll be posting, I think Grace posted it in the chat, You'll also receive the blurb in the digest this week, your weekly newsletter. But there is an advising session today from 9 till 10 p.m. So they're all late night, but I'll go ahead and post that schedule and the blurb in the digest this week.
Yeah, and let me just also say that, again, our office has call-in advising from 9 to 4:30, Monday through Friday. So just call our main number. You can get that on our web homepage, and you'll be connected to one of the advisors on call who'll do their best to help you.
Yeah, we are here to help. So let us know how we can be helpful, or what questions you still have, and we'll get you some answers. But thank you, Dr. Ravner, for joining us and for answering all of our pressing questions. Appreciate your time and have a good day, everyone.
Take care, everyone.